Okay, well, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be.
Hello, welcome back. This is Laughing Skull Podcast, Episode 3. I am accompanied by my friend Mitzi.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Robert the Doll, the most cursed object in the world. Feel free to talk a little bit more, Mitzi.
So what I've read about Robert the Doll is mostly more recent. A lot of misfortune has become of people who have visited him at the museum. They have strict rules you have to follow, or Robert will curse you, as they say.
And you should always start off by saying, "I'm sorry, Robert." You shouldn't take his photograph unless, he acknowledges you.
You also have to say goodbye before leaving the museum, or misfortune can follow you as well.
That is true. Did you know that he is the entire cause of the Child Play franchise?
I did. I found that out recently when reading up on him.
I've known about that for, I don't know, maybe 15 years. I always thought Chucky was probably one of my favorite horror icons.
That one really affected me as a kid. I had one of those My Kid Sister dolls, and needless to say, that doll did not stay in the room very long. No.
Oh, I had a good guy doll. I really like the movies because of Jennifer Tilly. That's probably one of my favorite actresses. Very sexy. That's okay. Like any pauses in between conversation, I'm just going to edit out. So
That's fine.
like I said, it's not very organic. Okay, so Robert the Doll, the story of Eugene Otto and his enchanted doll. It's fair to say that Key West, Florida is well known for being haunted. There are many stories surrounding Key West and the wider state, but one of the most famous is of Robert the Doll. Eugene Otto and the elements of the Bahamian voodoo said to link the two together. Although Robert seems to be nothing but a special, rather careworn doll, dressed in a sailor suit holding a toy dog, covered in a small marks that seem to appear like a little too much like scars, with small beady eyes and a smirk on his face. Many agree that he is directly responsible for a variety of weird incidences. Robert has, over the years, been accused of causing car accidents, relationship breakdowns, divorce, death, disease, and much, much more.
He's a busy guy.
He is a very busy guy. Very busy, whatever it is. So it's widely speculated that Robert's actually been possessed by some kind of demon that comes from black magic that was performed by, I believe it was the caretaker for Otto.
Yeah, it was the family maid.
Yeah, from what I understand, she got fired for performing black magic in the backyard, and I guess she cursed the doll. According, this is all up for speculation, of course. This is allegedly speaking. I don't really know, but just in case, I'm sorry, Robert. So, where did Robert the Doll come from? Although Robert's origins are disputed, as this is one of those stories that gets passed around from family member to family member within the state, it's generally thought that Robert was given to Otto as a present from his grandfather following a trip to Germany. After some investigation by the Fort West Martello Museum, where Robert resides today, it's now thought that the doll was never actually intended to be a doll. It's thought to be made by Steve, I can't pronounce that word, and prepared to have manufactured as part of a clown or jester display. The outfit, well, it's thought to be Otto's himself. And if you're wondering where Robert got his name, he got it from Eugene. That's right. Eugene's full name is Robert Eugene Otto, and soon the doll ended up with the same name as Robert, while Otto was simply referred to by his middle name. So, I don't know if you knew about this or not, but I believe they had a private detective. He actually linked back to where the doll was manufactured, and it went all the way back to Germany. So, whenever he discussed it with the manufacturer, I believe it was like a lady that worked there. She basically found out that the doll was from her area, but it was never supposed to be as big as it is. Like they made they made the dolls kind of like what Robert is. I don't really know what brand it is, but they're much smaller, as if like a little one you would get from like a claw machine.
Yeah, and this one is life size.
Yeah,
Well, child size.
yeah. Robert's like 3 or 4 feet tall. It's pretty off-putting. He kind of reminds me of like those little Shy Guy ones that you put in the corner in your house.
Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that shit's always creeped me out. Like we had one over here for the longest time, and I didn't even know it was here. Like I'd get up and go make food in the middle of the night, and I finally noticed it in the corner, and it scared the living shit out of me, which is why I kind of didn't feel comfortable doing this one by myself. I am a kind of a pussy when it comes to this kind of shit.
Oh, it's just a little doll. Sorry, Robert.
Sorry, Robert. Another story about Robert the Haunted Doll and his origins describe the Otto family's mistreatment of their servant and maids. The family lived in a large mansion house that still stands today. It stands at the corner of the Simonton and Eaton. I'm not entirely sure where that is. I've only been to Florida one time. The size of the house meant that the family needed help. One maid was apparently caught using voodoo and was quickly fired, but before she left she gave Robert to Eugene, but Robert was cursed, and she used some of the voodoo that she's been fired for on the doll to bring fear and discomfort to the family. Go ahead.
I also read that speculation, of course, that the doll gained supernatural powers from being blamed by anything Eugene rather did as a child.
That is true. I've read something similar to that as well. So my thing about it is I don't necessarily believe it's a ghost haunting the doll, much less even black magic. Because when it comes to like demon possessions and things like that, I don't necessarily believe them to come from like a religious standpoint or even an earthly standpoint. I feel like it's some kind of extra dimensional force, like an energy that's unrelated to like heaven and hell.
I'm with your line of thinking.
It's one of those things that you can't really explain, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a spirit. But I don't know.
There's definitely some funky energy going on with Robert the doll, though.
That is very true. Okay, so in the beginning, Robert the Haunted Doll is well known for being more than a little spooky. But in the beginning, things seemed a little bit more innocent, like any other childhood friendship between a boy and his toy. Eugene took Robert everywhere with him, and even though the Robert the Doll was probably a little large and unwieldy for a boy of his age, Eugene was thought to be around 8 when given Robert. And Robert stood at around 3 feet tall, which is fucking huge. I can't imagine just
like,
toting that around. That's like a toddler.
That's like a 4 or 5-year-old child. That's tall.
The doll is tall enough to start paying rent.
Exactly.
He was never seen without his beady-eyed companion in tow. Eugene was often heard whispering to Robert, which was entirely normal, because he's a child, of course. It was only when a deep voice was heard answering back to Eugene that things started to get a little bit strange. See, already I'm starting to get goosebumps.
One of the biggest questions I've had after reading about him is he was said to have face paint like a gesture. And I wonder how it came about that went away. You know, like, was it removed before Otto ever received the doll? Or Did it have a big role in its supernatural powers? Did it have special meaning?
I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that his expression is known to change. So that is entirely possible that that's maybe what it is, but I've also not heard of that part. So I don't really know. Don't really have any answers. The Robert the Doll story gets stranger and stranger as the years go on. Robert was said to have somewhat of a hold over Eugene, and loud, violent commotions could be heard coming from Eugene's bedroom on an almost nightly basis. Furniture could often be found overturned. Toys of Eugene were often found ripped apart, and when the Otto family entered Eugene's room, he's found huddled on his bed petrified. When asked what happened, he only ever responded with one response: Robert did it. Which I don't understand why the fuck you wouldn't just get rid of the doll. Like in these horror movies and shit, you always see them with like a cursed object and they never get rid of it.
He had such an attachment to the doll that that's one of the reasons why the family not never got rid of it. Even his wife, after he passed away, made it a contract with the people that she rented or leased the house to, that Robert lived upstairs in the attic and like could not be removed from the house, or they couldn't live there.
See, I would have just moved. Like, I couldn't do that. I'm not like those stereotypical fathers that you would see in like one of those horror movies. When you know how it is, it's always like a white suburban family. They get this house for cheap. It's 2 stories. You know, they have a couple kids. The kids start seeing shit. The dad's always in denial because he doesn't want to give up the house he spent all the money for. He always finds out like the last bit of the movie. It's like one of those. Like, my ass would have been gone. Especially as a parent. If my kid was talking about a doll talking to them, it's gone. Like, there's no
Or
hesitation.
even destroying the doll, like
I don't know about destroying it because, like, if it is cursed, I wouldn't want to piss off whatever is attached to it. I would probably just, give it to some other kid.
actually in 1974, I think, after Otto passed away, a family moved into the house shortly after, and they had a 10-year-old daughter who moved into the attic and took over ownership of Otto. It was said that he attacked her multiple occasions, and that was some of the events that was part of inspiring the Child's Play movies.
So the plot thickens. Stories of Robert the Doll moving meant that he was quickly banished to the attic. Servants arrived and promptly quit their jobs in quick succession. And it's also claimed that the aunt that banished Robert to the attic died the same night that he was put there. I have heard of that. Despite his banishment, the Otto family was said to hear Robert the Doll moving frequently around the upstairs portion of the house, and his footsteps said to echo throughout the areas of the property that were completely empty. He was even said to giggle in the middle of the night. See, that's a big fuck no.
Yeah, totally fucking creepy.
See, I could talk about the Mothman, I could talk about UFO abductions. I don't fuck with this shit. Eugene Otto as an adult. Despite all of this, and despite his obvious fear of Robert the Doll, whenever he was a child, Eugene kept Robert as, he grew up and became an adult. He worked as an artist and later he got married. And he continued to keep Eugene propped up in a window of his home. Sorry, I'm going to redo that line. He worked as an artist and later married, and kept Eugene propped up in a window of his home. School children, sorry, hold on. School children and almost anyone walked past the property would say that they often saw the doll disappear from sight before appearing again before their eyes. Many people avoided the house entirely so that they could avoid Robert. Annette, Eugene's wife, was said to detest Robert and supposedly banished him to the back of the attic. Naturally, he didn't take participating kindly to this, and so Robert the Haunted Doll once more placed demands on Eugene, requesting the turret room of the house because he wanted a room with a view of the street. Gene spent all of his time in the turret room with Robert, painting and talking to his doll until his death in 1964. So it's literally that stereotypical house you see in a horror movie that looks run down, even though it's not run down, but you're told not to walk anywhere near it.
Yeah, the creepy house at the end of the street. And hearing that, I got my dates mixed up. It was 1964, not 1974,
Still, though, it makes me
as I
wonder,
mentioned
like,
earlier.
what is the property value? Like, surely it's plummeted a little bit. I mean, I know Florida's kind of, like, expensive, but still.
I believe they give tours of the house. Not if not now, they did at some point in the past. There was video footage of a tour guide asking people not to take pictures outside of the home or inside of the home because of the spiritual energy surrounding it. So, little food for thought, I guess.
I mean, that sounds interesting for, like, a landmark location. So the story continues. The story of Robert Eugene Otto didn't end with his death. The Robert the Doll story continued well past Eugene's death, and the legend continues even to this day. The woman who bought Eugene's house, Myrtle Rudder, I'm sorry I'm butchering that, was Robert's caretaker following the sale of the house. Myrtle I cannot pronounce that word. Myrtle corroborated many of Eugene's stories and often found Robert in an entirely different place where she had last left him. Visitors to the new house didn't like Robert and found that he'd appear and disappear at will. She and her visitors also claimed that he had already changed his creepy expression on Robert's face, appeared to change on its own when anyone discovered Eugene in a negative way. In 1994, Myrtle donated Robert to the 4 East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, where he still resides today. You got anything?
He received lots and lots of mail, at least 3 letters a day, and gifts.
Yes.
People send him candy, money, joints, although the museum does away with the latter.
It's kind of funny that he has a fan base. He's also got a social media presence.
Very, very highly kept up social media presence. I can't remember the lady's name, but she's been in charge, I think, of him ever since he came to the museum, and make sure that all of his mail is answered and all of his gifts are received.
Probably gets as much notifications as I do on a daily. So Robert the Doll, as of today, you'd be forgiven for thinking that perhaps being locked inside a glass case would mean that Robert's antics were well and truly over, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Robert's big move simply meant that the legend grew stronger and he was exposed to more and more people. Today he even has his own social media accounts, and a Robert replica doll is sold. Fuck no. If you've...
Right?
Yeah.
No thank you.
No thank you. All it takes is for him to just hop from one to another. Like, I'm good, dude. If we're to believe that anything about voodoo is correct, perhaps with the increased exposure of Robert, plus replicas of him being sold, the increased bad luck of visitors to the museum is simply due to the curse being spread further and further afield. Exactly my point right there. That is a big fucking no. I don't understand...
Very true.
Dude, I don't understand why people would just buy something like that if it comes from like a cursed object. Even if you're not superstitious, it's better to not have it, just in case, you know? Like, I know it's probably not real, but you're not going to want to stick around in case it is.
Like, I wouldn't want that in my house at all, anywhere near it. I don't think I'd even want to be in anybody's house that has one. Hey, I went and visited the museum and check out what I picked up. No fucking thank you.
I would even give that to Singleton. Robert at the museum. Staff at the museum claim that Robert has been found in different positions within his case, that footsteps have been heard out around the museum at night with no apparent explanation for the noise, and that Robert's expression has been known to change from a more neutral to nasty in the blink of an eye. Visitors to the museum have given advice on how to approach Robert, to speak to him in a polite way and ask his permission to photograph with him, and to treat him with respect. I don't really know how you could actually ask him for permission and how he even responds to you. But I know that there has been situations where people take photos of him without asking and their camera footage is just wiped clean. Or the SIM card in their device is just ruined.
Yeah, or the device will just completely glitch and not work and will start working again once they leave the museum.
It's also funny to me that he's not studied as often as you think he should be, considering the amount of paranormal activity that takes place around him. You would think that there would be some kind of, I don't know, investigation with it.
I think there was a paranormal investigation done around him by one of the ghost hunter shows sometime in the mid 2000s. He was taken on a tour, so to speak, to a Vegas show, an oddities type show, and they did some type of paranormal investigating on the doll then, but I don't know the results of it off the top of my head.
It's all very, very strange. The walls of Robert's display are littered with letters from visitors apologizing for their behavior. When visiting this museum, they claim that they've encountered dreadful misfortune, gotten into accidents, had relationship breakdowns, or even experienced death or disease in the family after visiting Robert. And those letters seek to ask his forgiveness. There are over 1,000 letters in total, and the museum keeps and catalogs all of them for future references. It doesn't specify on here, but it is true about him receiving marijuana, and he also receives alcohol.
I hadn't heard about the alcohol, but I had heard about the marijuana. They don't let that hang around. I'm sure the staff disposes of it quite well.
Well, from what I understand, they don't. They actually know better than to, get rid of anything that actually belongs to Robert.
That's contradictory to something that I read, but everybody writes what they want to write on the internet. So,
Hey, that's true. I mean, it says that he has a little stuffed dog, but from what I understand, it was a lion. And also, from what I understand, the people at the museum have no idea where he got it. Because whenever he originally showed up at the museum, he didn't have it.
I know one person has reported that they saw him touching the glass in his case and leaving his hand there. That's some creepy shit. Would you ever visit Robert the doll?
Oh yeah, I probably would. I wouldn't bring any photography equipment with me, of course. Probably leave my cell phone in the car. I know that the original manager that was working there whenever he first showed up, she was kind of skeptical about the whole ordeal. And one night I believe she was counting money, and the rest of the staff was cleaning the museum. And this woman got up screaming. She ran out of the museum, ran outside, ran past her car, completely did not care about getting in her car, and ran all the way home. From what I understand, she quit her job. She never talked about what happened.
That's some creepy shit.
That is some very creepy shit. If you want to learn more about Robert the Doll and the story behind him, you can definitely go visit the museum. He is very famous around the world, but it's probably even more famous because there are films like the Annabelle doll from, what is that, The Conjuring?
Yeah, I think that's the Conjuring series.
Yeah, I've never actually seen any of the Conjuring movies. I do know that I don't like how they changed the Annabelle doll in the movie from what it originally was. It was like a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, I think it's one of those creepy ventriloquist dolls now.
It got the Hollywood treatment. At least with the Chucky doll, they kind of, for the most part, kept with the actual lore of what happened with the character, or I guess, the actual doll.
Yeah, it looks like a normal looking doll. A child's plaything, not necessarily something that you would use in a show or an act, like a ventriloquist doll.
I really like those movies though. Like, I remember that first scene. I'm gonna play it at the end of at the end of the podcast, but the very first scene, whenever he finally revealed himself to the mother, I can't remember the lady's name, but when she found out he didn't have any batteries and he just turned around and started talking, and then she was like, "I'm gonna throw you the fireplace," and he's like, "You stupid bitch."
Yeah, that was great. That was a great scene. Um, One of my favorite scenes is from, I believe it's the third movie when they're in the toy factory and he finally gets it in the end and starts like melting into just a pile of goo.
I do like. I think it was Curse of Chucky. I don't remember which one. There's a lot of Child's Play movies, but it was the end credit scene of, I believe it was Curse of Chucky, where he gets delivered to Andy and Andy's all grown up, and Andy already fucking knew what it was. So like whenever Chucky finally got out of the package, Andy had the shotgun in his face.
Yeah, I think that might have been the fourth, third. No, that might have been the third movie because Andy was grown and in some type of military program.
No, that one was the third movie because
That was the third. Okay.
yeah. This one, Andy was kind of just like cameoed in the movie. I don't exactly remember what the hell the movie was about. I don't remember because there's like Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, Bride of Chucky.
I think that's about the extent of the ones that I've seen, and I haven't seen it past that.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. I've seen every one of them. Chucky's probably, apart from Jeepers Creepers and Freddy Krueger, like my favorite horror icon.
Now, Nightmare on Elm Street, I've seen every single one of those. And, Freddy versus Jason and
Freddy vs.
all that
Jason's
kind
a
of.
pretty good movie.
It was pretty awesome when it came out in the theaters. We exited the movie theater, and there were people dressed up like Freddy and Jason, and they chased you out to the parking lot. It was great. One of
Yeah.
my favorite movie going experiences.
That was the very first rated R movie I've ever seen in the theater by myself, even though I was not 18.
Ooh, what a rebel.
I know. Also, they were supposed to have a sequel to that movie called Ash versus Freddy versus Jason, and it never came around because I guess Miramax or whoever does Freddy versus Jason, I don't remember what production company, but they wanted to have
I
the
think
rights of whatever they wanted to do to Ash Williams, and Sam Raimi was kind of like, no, fuck you. Ash has to win. That's kind of his point. You can do whatever you want to him. He just has to win. So,
that would have been epic. I would have loved to have seen that.
well, they actually made a comic book off of it. I don't know if you've read that.
I have not, and this is the first I've heard of it. I will definitely have to look into that.
Yeah, there's a comic, and I believe Freddy goes to hell and he finds the I can't even say the word. Necronomicon.
Necronomicon.
Yes! Yes, Freddy Krueger gets it. And Ash has to go take care of him. And I think it actually leads to... I don't know if I'm right on this one. I haven't read it in like 15 years, but I believe it leads to Ash getting sent to the Marvel universe. And that's where Marvel Zombies takes place.
Okay, now you're talking my language because I do love the Marvel Zombies series. I'm not a huge, big Marvel hoopla like everybody else fan, but the Marvel Zombies is a super awesome compendium. Totally worth the read.
Yeah, like, don't quote me on that, but I know Ash ends up causing the whole Marvel zombie apocalypse. And I think it actually takes place at the end of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, but I may be wrong. But yeah, when it comes to Robert the Doll, it's just better to just go ahead and say thank you, Robert. I'm sorry, Robert. Be polite. Use proper mannerisms. Just in case. Like, I wouldn't want to risk anything just in the off chance that it is true. Especially taking his photograph or downloading his photo.
I felt goosebumps just looking at his photo, researching before we talked about this. Just because he's so.
Have you seen that he blinks?
I have not, but that's
Yeah,
creepy because he has like just dead button eyes.
he has no eyelids, and the doll has been filmed blinking. I shit you not. I seen it myself. It is some scary fucking shit.
Now I've got goosebumps.
Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, Robert the Doll, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, leave a like. Make sure you subscribe and stay spoopy.
See you later.